Welcome to Content with Character, the weekly podcast that'll give you the momentum you need to create content with more ease, clarity, and laughter. I'm your host, content copywriter Emily Aborn, and I'm all about unconventional marketing approaches. I believe in your big ideas, and I'm excited to help you share them in a way that's distinctly you. You may or may not have heard me talk before about the different stages of consciousness of your client. I've used the terms symptom, problem, solution aware in an episode I did recently, but today we're going to look at someone else's way of describing this, and we'll use it to help you make even more sense of the type of marketing you're focusing on in your business and with your community. We're going to get into the 4 levels of consciousness and show you how you can apply them for yourself. Hi, welcome back to the Content with Character podcast, and welcome to the month of October if you are tracking with me, listening to this in real time. Oh my gosh, I think September was the fastest month of the entire year, but honestly, I don't know, something is up with 2024. I feel like this year has been the fastest of my entire life. Like January feels like it was 3 months ago, and here we are preparing for another January. Too soon? Too soon for the New Year's resolutions. Anyway, I don't know if that's been your experience, but worth a mention because it's been mine. So this month, October, for the 5 episodes that I have in store for you, or, if you're not listening in October, whenever you're listening, the next 5 episodes, we're going to be focusing on the power of 4. So each episode is going to involve some sort of easy to remember 4-part either framework or a concept or something that you can explore for yourself or, whatever. The theme will be 4. And I kind of thought it fitting to do this in October because it's like a 4th quarter celebration. We're starting to wrap up 2024 and, well, that's the only things I connected it to. But anyway, that's good enough for me to create a theme. So you may or may not have heard about me talk before about the different stages of consciousness of your client. And I've used personally the terms awareness. So I'll use symptom, problem, solution aware. And I've spoken to how we can use that in our marketing. I will include that past episode in the show notes. It's a little different from today because today we're going to look at something else. We're going to look at someone else's way of describing this, which I found super interesting and applicable. And then we're going to use it to help you make even more sense of maybe what type of marketing you're focusing on with your business and with your community. So I'm going to be talking about or sharing with you about the 4 levels of consciousness. And these are defined by Scott Oldford. They are, as he says, reactive, willful, intellectual, and intuitive. So we're going to break that down. I will be giving, of course, all credit to him because that is where it is due. And I'll also include a link so you can read his whole article on it in more detail. This is just kind of like my synopsis, quick bite, quick start kind of thing on my end. And then really, I just kind of wanted to help you apply it and think about it for yourself. So we will get into all of that. I like to quickly, before I do that, introduce myself, tell you who I am, just in case this is your first time listening, or if you, forgot, if you had a bout of amnesia and you forgot who I was. Okay. I am Emily Aborn. I'm a copywriter. I'm obviously the host of this podcast, and I love learning new things. I love learning about health stuff, business stuff, marketing, writing, what makes human beings tick, what makes us different and the same, and other random things that catch my curiosity along the way. And I get to pair that with what I do on this podcast. This podcast is really all about helping you to learn, to feel inspired, to laugh, hopefully, every now and then also feel empowered to be able to show up in the world as the wonderful human being, the person who ticks a little bit different than everybody else. I want you to show up one of a kind as you with less stress and also more confidence. So part of what I set out to do, or part of what I wanted to focus on when I started this podcast, was sometimes offering these mini book reviews or, No, I guess that's the way to say it. Like a synopsis of something that I'm reading about marketing or writing or something like that. Now, I haven't read a lot of self-development, business development books this year. I've mostly been reading a lot of fiction, so I haven't really done that. So I thought maybe I would get started in this way. And it's kind of just breaking down a long-form concept and putting it into like quick, easy, bite-sized pieces for you. You can take it and run with it, dig in deeper, follow the breadcrumbs if you want. So that's kind of what we're going for. Like I said, this is not my original idea. I'm giving full credit to Scott Oldford for his idea, and will duly note when it's like his exact words. I'll also give you resources all month long where you can find more, take quizzes, dig in deeper on anything that we talk about throughout the month. If you are ever missing said resources, please refer to the show notes. They are always in the show notes. You can also find these episodes on my website, emilyaborn.com, under the podcast tab, and also connect with me in all the places there. Intro over. That was a little more than just an intro. Sorry. Okay, intro over. Let's get into the 4 levels of consciousness. So, like I said, these come from Scott Oldford. If you are unaware, he is a mentor and investor for online businesses, self-described. And while I don't know a lot about him, I like a couple of things about him. I like that he focuses on long form and he doesn't shy away from that. So many people out there say, oh, everyone has such short attention spans. All that there is room for anymore is short form, short form, short form. And Scott really does not shy away from long form. And I really love that about him. He also is very anti-bro marketing and doesn't kind of perpetuate that myth that, you need this, that, and the other thing. He's not trying to sell you a bunch of shiny objects. So I really like that. My friend Lisa Zarotny, host of the Positively Living podcast, she directed my attention towards these 4 levels of consciousness, and it super interested me. So I was like, okay, I got to share this. I want to pique your interest too. Scott, like me, reminds us that marketing is not like a one size fits all. It's not just as simple as everybody creating a funnel, everybody creating a lead magnet, knowing your niche or audience. Like there's a lot more that comes down to it. A lot more to think about, and a lot more specificity, I would say. So in this 4 levels of consciousness, he speaks to the different buyer types, the different personas, the different decision makers that you and I are both speaking to in our content. And while I don't think that there's opportunity to appeal to all of these at one time, it's really important to be aware of all 4 of them so that you're not just being generic and you're not just trying to be the person that is for everyone. And everybody, it's important to also remember, everybody's at a different stage of their journey. And I think the more we can remember that, the more we can be aware of those different stages and meet them where they are. And I always say marketing is a bridge. Marketing is a bridge between where I am and where my client or customer is. So the more we can create that bridge, the better, in my opinion. All right. So Scott's 4 levels of consciousness, he lays them out as reactive, willful, intellectual, and intuitive. Now, right off the bat, you can probably hear how those 4 words are a little bit different, right? In the kind of buyer that we're talking to. But let's dive in a little bit deeper on each of them. So reactive, that's the buyer that we see, being appealed to most often in bro marketing, like any of this shiny, flashy online stuff. I'm guilty of it too, because I buy in this way occasionally, but it's basically just kind of like the buyer that is being ping-ponged around based on what they see and what they're being told to focus on. Now, marketers are good. They know that there are reactive buyers out there. They know this. They know you. And so they use this reactive nature to drive you with fear, urgency, getting out of pain quickly, right? We want that quick solution, short-term solution. So for me, some examples I get fed to are supplements. The reason my dog's breath smells so terrible, buy this thing. This is why your dog is doing this, right? And if he just takes this thing, it will solve his bad breath, or why he's licking the floor, or why he's eating grass in the yard. I also get targeted ads for like, when you're about to hit that age where all bets are off unless you do this thing. So this is marketing I do fall for. I do fall for it sometimes. And I also cannot stand this kind of marketing. It wants me to, get the latest and greatest brain focus pills. And trust me, I've done it. I have purchased them over the years in moments of distracted frustration. I also dislike the frameworks out there that tell us this is how we should focus, right? We should focus entirely on pain point marketing because that is what the reactive buyer wants. Now, I do think it's important to be aware of our customers' pain points. I do think it's important to be aware of like the timelines because some people do need that quick solution, that quick fix. And people also sometimes need a nudge. Like sometimes the doors to a workshop actually do close in 3 days. So it's okay to like remind them of that. But I do not love marketing that is focused completely on scarcity and fear. And that is what we're doing when we speak to the reactive buyer in our marketing. So myself and Scott recommend maybe using this from time to time when you're using it with honesty, when you're being genuine about what you're promising and timelines, like I said. The reason I would not recommend constantly using this in your marketing is because it can be a little bit shisty and unethical. It can also create a very dissatisfied and resentful buyer. How many things have you bought on that whim, right? Or in that reaction and you didn't get those magical results that you were promised and you got super, super frustrated because you're buying with a short-term mindset. You are often a reactive buyer is often a short-term buyer. They're not really loyal to you. They're not really loyal to anyone or anything else. And they're not loyal to following through to do the work to get the results that you're promising on the other side. So that's why I don't love using reactive, like selling to the reactive buyer all of the time in our marketing. And I always tell my clients, yes, go ahead, create an opt-in or a lead magnet, but you don't always need to. And if you do, know that the way you word it is incredibly important, and it may also attract more short-term buyers than loyal fans. Can those short-term buyers turn into loyal fans? Yes, of course. I love having a little freebie in place when it's applicable for a podcast guest interview that I'm doing or as an additional resource when I'm speaking. I want to make sure people are not missing out on something that can offer them additional value. But I don't like these downloads. And again, I'm guilty, but they're like 5 secrets to XYZ. And then to get any of the secrets or to get any of the results, you have to pay for it. You have to do this other thing. And it really is a little bit misleading when we're selling to somebody promising them this, and there's actually a lot more work involved than getting those results. So that's just something to think about. That's the reactive buyer. Buyer type number 2, in Scott's words, he uses consciousness level. This is called the willful buyer. It's a little bit less pulling teeth already, isn't it? This is somebody who knows it's going to take a little bit of elbow grease. They know that it's going to take a little bit of work to get the results that they're looking for. They might not only buy a course, but they're also going to actually do the course. They probably do the activities in that download or that freebie, and they may even start following you or listening to your podcast to continue learning all that they can from you and more. Right now, I have my eyes on a course as well as a class that I would like to take, and I know that it's going to take me time, and I want to commit that time, so I'm right now sitting in the willful buyer seat from this guy. In Scott's words regarding the willful buyer, you're motivated, you're going to succeed, and you're ready to work harder and longer than everybody else. So in order to speak to this person, you can see how you have to actually kind of speak differently to them in your marketing than that reactive buyer, right? We're not just like now focusing on pain and instant solutions and instant results and promise, promise, promise. These people want to see more success-based, long-term ROI, goal-oriented language. They want it to show them that they're going to get to where they want to go, and not just in the short term. So also in Scott's words, this looks like, yes, highlighting a little bit of their pain. Like we still don't want to ignore that there is a problem and we have the solution. So that might look, though, a little bit gentler, like getting their income to where they want it to be, getting them more in shape or feeling better in their bodies, sleeping better. It's all about being better, more, and improving on. And I think that's kind of the important distinction there. So important to note, and I love that Scott says this and reminds us of this, they also want it to still, like at this level, they want it still to be easy, meaning you don't want to have too many obstacles or steps in their path. So this is still a person who is ready. They are raring to go. And if you start getting confusing or complicated, when things aren't clear, when they get slowed down, when they have 9 million links to follow to get to XYZ or to get the information that they want, they may give up. So I think it's important, be mindful that we do want to include this kind of like goal-oriented ROI long-term language in our marketing from time to time. And also be aware that it does create a person who is going to want a lot out of what you're promising, but they're also going to do the work to get it. So just think about that. But remember, if you're not delivering on what you promise, if it does not in fact make them more successful, more happy, more beautiful, if it does not make their dog poop unicorn sparkles like you promised, they may be on their way looking for that next solution. So I think one thing that can be helpful for this kind of person is having kind of like a quickie service done for you, a course, a class, something that doesn't really involve your usual like full service, right? So for these buyers, I have something in place I call a bio builder. That's just like a done for you quick service where I write their bio for them and also give them LinkedIn audit, like a LinkedIn recommendations, but it doesn't include me getting on a call with them, and it doesn't include any of my usual like back and forth. It's very simple, and I'm careful not to promise anything, but I just kind of give them that like fresh, spruced up bio that they can feel a little bit more confident in sharing those different versions when they're on podcasts or speaking or something like that. So that's a good example of like a course or a something like a self-paced thing is another good example of a service that appeals to this kind of willful buyer. Sometimes these willful buyers do end up working with you one-to-one on a larger project or signing up for a larger course, or sometimes they are just a person looking for a relatively quick win. And they think that maybe this is the solution to all their problems in their business, but it's a good place to get started either way. So you can see how you do have to be careful with this one. Like you don't want to overpromise, and you also don't want to ignore this type of buyer and leave it out of your marketing altogether. So that's the willful buyer. Type 3 in Scott's consciousness level is the intellectual buyer. So no offense to the other two, because like I said, we can all fall into all these categories at certain times, and sometimes I fall into them as well. But I do love an intellectual buyer. This is my person. These are my people. What I love about this is it's where you really take time with somebody. You're getting a chance to like educate them over the long term. They really trust you. They give you the actual keys and the creative license, let's call it, to like really take them to the next level. So they're willing, this is the buyer that is willing to invest with you in a bigger way, because they know that there's a lot you can do for them. So this is like somebody who, they don't just want the website designer to design them a salesy landing page. They want the website. They want the project portfolio pages. They want SEO. They want to make sure that their copy is accurately reflecting their business and like weaves throughout their whole business cohesively with a unified message. This is probably you in certain buying instances if you take time to listen to my episodes regularly. Like, we're in this. We're here for the long haul. Okay, we're in it to win it, and we're taking action, learning, and growing together. This is the reason I love working with these types of clients and speaking to this type of person in my marketing specifically, is because I know if somebody is in this with me and they're willing to do the work, we can really, really make a change for them. We can make a difference in their business. And I've heard success stories time and time and time again. It's not that quick fix, fast solution, right? So as service providers, if you are a service provider, I think this is really a beautiful opportunity to get to have those loyal dream clients when you're working on speaking to this person and using your marketing to attract that kind of person. So this is why we can't write off the long form. We cannot write off the long form copy, the emails, the putting those details, the frequently asked questions on our website, the taking time to do exploratory calls or discovery calls. Like, this is why those things still exist and why I don't think that people have. Not everybody has that short attention span that we think they do. So I'm going to give you an actual example of myself in this seat when I am when I'm like in the intellectual buying level of consciousness. So when I'm going to purchase something, I typically start with like looking at their website to get an overall feel. I will follow their social media, but I may also just like start with like looking at their social media, reading a bit of their posts. Like, I like to learn more about them in that way because it's their conversational voice in many cases. I may also at that time sign up for their email list, spend a little bit of time on there and just kind of like read what they have to say. I might write back to one of their emails and like ask them the questions that I have, and then maybe I'm going to get on wait list for said thing. I have, like right now in my bookmarks tab, I have a course that I want to take, and then it might take me 2 more months to sign up for it. But when I do, I'm going to make a solid decision. From there, I kind of already have plotted in my mind, like the next thing I want to up level with that person. But again, that might be actually even a more long-term decision. So that's a good example. There is another example I have of just like a client recently, 2 actually. One has been on my email. We have been connected in each other's worlds for 10 years in the business world, and she's probably been on my email list for that entire 10 years. She recently connected with me and started to work with me. Another person has been on like in my world for like 6 years, and it was only recently that he connected with me and decided to start working with me. So those are some examples. Not that we cannot obviously build a business full of these kind of buyers, but it's important to know that they're out there and you don't want to not be speaking to them. So I also think it's really reassuring to know that they're out there because you just never know what is going to happen, but don't eliminate these people. And some of the ways that you can do it is, okay, so for example, I just took this like 9-month course last year, and the sales page was extensive. And I will tell you, I sat there and I read every single word. In fact, I probably read the page 3 times before just like making sure it was 100% what I wanted. It was a large ticket purchase. But once I knew that I was going to do it, I was all in. I was fully invested. Like, I put in the time. And I'm, like I said, like I'm doing that right now with kind of another thing that I'm looking to purchase, kind of actually in the similar price point. So it's just a good reminder. I think it's a positive reminder to remember that these people are out there. Now, remember, you can't always be talking to this kind of person because it does take a lot of time. It can take a lot of time. It can take a lot of trust building. It can take a lot of years. Or it cannot. Sometimes these people buy way faster than you think they do. But here's where it's exceptionally important that you are setting yourself apart and making yourself distinct and really allowing who you are to come through, because these people, they're not just here for like trendy, flashy, hot, quick solutions. They actually really care and they want to know you a little bit. They want to like you and they want to trust you. These are like the people that's like, they want to jive with you, right? So don't rush them along. Don't lie to them. Don't overpromise. Don't give them vague, unclear, unspecific answers. If you can't do something or deliver on something that you promise for them, don't throw it out there. So consider speaking who in your business can you think of that is this intellectual buyer? Who reminds you of this? Think back to how they found you. Was it some Instagram ad? Was it word of mouth or referral? Was it a group that you're showing up to consistently where they've gotten to know you over time? Is it somebody on your email list? So think about that. And it's just a good opportunity to realize marketing is not one size fits all, and we cannot speak to every single person in the same way. All right, last one in Scott's framework, and then we'll wrap it up. This is the intuitive consciousness level. I think that sometimes I fall into this category, but usually I'm more in that intellect. I'm usually thinking before I'm feeling. But I usually take lots of time before getting here intuitively, because sometimes even if I think I know I want something, I still want to be sure. And I'm going to take a long time. So these two, the intellectual and the intuitive, they might be friends because sometimes that intellectual needs a little bit of a nudge, right? And they might also be one and the same. But I would say equally as awesome, equally as loyal. But you do have to keep in mind using different language with them. So the difference is the intuitive buyer wants to kind of resonate with you. They are focused on things aligning, making a bigger impact, affecting that big picture, kind of like the big picture vision, let's call it. They don't really want all the facts, figures, ROI, stats, proof. They want a gut sense that you are the right person for them. And they're going to trust that. So I love these kind of people because I do typically think that we're both, when I get on a call with them, I'm like, oh my God, I have to work with this person. It's that sort of feeling, right? So I like it because when we're both feeling the same way, that is magic. That is the goal. We both want to work with each other just as badly. And it's so super duper exciting when you get to feel the same way about a client that they feel about you. So the other thing I love is you don't really have to, you're never trying to convince somebody of anything. You're never trying to prove yourself. You just have to show up, be yourself, and let that do the talking. When they are in, they are in. So for this, when you're using this in your marketing, when you're speaking to this intuitive type in your marketing, you're going to ignore the strategies, the tactics, the shiny, flashy plans. You want to speak from your heart. You want to talk about the humanness behind your business. I did this recently on my Instagram. I had a feeling. I just had some sort of feeling. And I wrote a post about it. And I tell you what, my intuitive people, they took the time to read the whole post and it really, really landed with them. And I've had that person that comes to me and says, I just feel like I need to work with you. That's kind of an indicator that you're speaking to an intuitive type. So as Scott says, if it speaks to them, they are in. So once again, you're going to get that signed, sealed, delivered. And I just think it's a great fit. So just make sure you're speaking to all of the 4 different levels of consciousness, or that you have some sort of piece in your business that works for all of these different 4 levels. So here they are one more time, just to help remind us. There's that reactive, there's the willful, the intellectual, and the intuitive. And I also want to state, and Scott says this, and I just want to echo it, I guess, for myself. None of those is better than the other. Your marketing wants to blend all 4 together, but keep each piece should be specific to that type. And if you want to focus on one more than the other, make sure you kind of think about that and you're mostly speaking to that. So if there's one of those that jumps out at you as this is the person I love working with, really, really speak to that kind of person. So you can see how if you just lean on one and ignore the other 3, you're leaving yourself open to different kind of gaps in your business. You may feel that your marketing is not working. I hear that a lot. You may feel you're attracting, quote unquote, the wrong kind of clients. Oh, well, people who only want cheap or free are coming to work with me or coming to find me. Maybe you're finding a lot of people who don't understand that there is a 2-way street here and they have to do some of the work. Or maybe you feel that nobody is reading everything that you write or listening to everything that you say. It can feel, when you're not kind of thinking about all four of these, it can often feel like you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying like all the trendy, flashy, shiny objects and not getting any results. So I like just kind of considering them all. Recently, in a podcast interview I did with a podcaster, Lorraine Ball, host of More Than a Few Words, something stood out to me. So her podcast, it's like 10 to 12 minutes max, and she has a guest. And I'm like, that is fascinating to me. I could have never done that when I had guests on my show. At the beginning of our chat, in the green room, for lack of a better place to call it, we were talking, and I said I was really impressed that she can do guest interviews in that short of an amount of time. Like me over here, you hear me, I'm doing solos. I can barely get these things down to half an hour. And she said in response to me that people don't have an attention span for something longer than that. And I say, you know what? That is true. Some people do not. And some people will listen to 20 minutes. Some people will listen to 30 minutes. Some people will listen to 3 hours if they like you and trust you and have all the information that they want. There is no one size fits all for anything in the marketing world. And there's not just one type of person likely that's going to interact with your business. So think about that. Not everyone's going to like any episode that you do, whether it's 10, 20, 30 minutes, 3 hours. Some people will like every single episode of you, and they will wish your episode was longer and that there was more of you. So there's only you and your business and your kind of type of client personal sweet spot. So you want to kind of work to use your marketing as a bridge, find those juxtapositions, and you're going to be doing better and more consistently than like 80% of the people out there that are just focusing on one type of person. So you'll also become more resistant when you start noticing it to that some of those consciousness levels that you don't want to keep perpetuating within yourself. So for example, for me, I don't want to be buying reactively. So that is something I can now be aware of and like, okay, I'm reacting, right? Like I'm looking for this quick thing. Okay, wrapping up as promised, the full article by Scott is in the show notes. And next week, we're going to talk about our next 4-part thing, which is which type of business are you running? And I have 4 fun business types to run by you. So I will see you then. Cannot wait. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Content with Character. If you loved the episode, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate, review, and share it with someone else you know it could help. For more content and visibility tips, visit my blog at emilyaborn.com and be sure to connect with me on Instagram at emilyaborn. I'd love to hear how this inspired you to take action.